from what you described before, it sounds like the note was anonymous. Did you have any idea of who was behind it? There are very few people in the know about what really happened 10 years ago to start with. But anyway, I'd never heard of this engineer, so no, I had no idea. Yet, despite not knowing who was behind the plan, you went along with it? I had no choice. Protecting the professor's secret was my only concern.
But the horse has bolted now, and the stable door will never shut again. The cat is out of the bag. Somebody put a cat door in the side of the bag and let the cat out. Scotland Yard's reputation will be immeasurably damaged as a result of all this.
Yes, thank you, Lord Van Zieks. I'm well aware of that.
So as I understand it, what you found in the birdcage was the waxwork model. Where then was the victim's body?
Hold it!
So I already pressed on this. Is there anything that I have that contradicts this? I mean, there's kind of the size of the screwdriver. Is that he's stabbed in the wrong place? Like, the heart isn't there? It's more middle-ish? What was my other option here? About how she stabbed him or the real cause of death? Oh man. I don't know.
Objection!
That's not it.
Hold it!
I guess here you see it's already open. That's fine. What you said before about the real cause of death, I believe that may be significant, so could you change yours?
Hold it!
Is there some reason that it couldn't be? Oh, is it because he wasn't upside down, so his legs should have broken instead of his back?
Objection!
Nope. No, that wasn't that.
Hold it!
Out. Press there.
Objection!
Not that either.
Objection!
But, my lord, wait.
Guilty.
Guilty! Guilty!
Guilty.
Guilty!
Kill me.
Guilty of murder, speed run, world record beaten. Oh, we've been through that. Just to make sure that it knows that I've pressed on everything, I'll go press on everything again. Oops.
Hold it! Hold it!
See, she definitely hesitates before that line. So what are the possibilities? That he died some other way, or that he wasn't dead yet and she actually killed him? I think I'm well and truly stumped. I've also kind of forgotten which things I've tried, which is unfortunate. I'm pretty sure... Oh, I'll try it anyway.
Objection.
Okay. I already did this, I think. The photograph. If anyone has any thoughts, feel free to share them. I presented that.
Objection.
Not the screwdriver. Serp sadly knows the answer. Understood. Badge! Answer is always the badge. We haven't used this yet. I did try the attorney's badge in order to get the deliberate game over. You think it might be the stabbing. It's odd for the game to hint like that and for it to be wrong. The way they were really like, there was something suspicious about what she just said. But I can't think of anything about what she said about the stabbing that I can contradict. And I can't, unlike with a lot of the other Phoenix Wright cases and questions, I feel like I can't reason my way to go, well, what is it that I think happened? Go, oh, well, I think she went down there and he was still alive and she killed, like, I can't figure out. They haven't really laid much of a, as far, I mean, in my opinion, as a salty person who has been streaming for 3 hours and wanted to just finish the case. The auto... this... And you're like, oh, well, this... When this fell, the head fell off, so shouldn't his neck have... Shouldn't his head have fallen off? Is there anything in here? Whatever this says. Beep, beep, boop, boo. I've already tried this here. I think.
Objection.
Yeah, I did. What are the other things we have to work with? enlisted the help of the interference. State secret of the highest level. Yeah, I think I might need one. At least knowing whether or not it's the one that I keep throwing evidence at. Because I feel like it might not be, because I've thrown almost everything I can think of at the 30-foot fall. Oh my god, it is about the stabbing.
Hold it!
Shoulda listened to Kalahonka. I'll never doubt again. Until tomorrow. Tomorrow's a new day. I stood over the victim's corpse, where it lay in the toppled cage, and plunged the screwdriver into the chest. Is it because only the tip of the screwdriver is bloody?
Objection!
No. I think I already presented the cage and the photograph. And there's like nothing else. Maybe I did. No, I feel like I'm pretty sure. Maybe I didn't do it. It's because there's no no, I did. I definitely. I presented this because I was like, oh, but the bird cage was closed. See, you couldn't have stabbed him while it was closed. Wow, whatever this is, I do not get it. Press on it again.
Hold it!
Bat an eyelid when you drove. Maybe it is the badge. I keep not remembering what things I have and haven't tried. I think I would just take the answer at this point. Because whatever it is, I don't understand the logic. There shouldn't be any reason that I think that she's lying about this.
Here's the photograph.
Although this is supposedly after they moved this body. This is him in the Crystal Tower. So she found him at the bottom of the thing, stabbed him, then left the screwdriver up there, and they brought the body in to put it in the Crystal Tower.
Objection!
It was this. I don't understand why. I don't have a nasty feeling. I don't have any feelings at all. This inconsistency points to an extremely uncomfortable truth.
What on earth is the matter, Council? Have you lost your voice because you've been streaming for 4 hours?
I apologize, my lord. Dr. Sith, in that last statement of yours, there's just one point. It seems to defy explanation.
Out with it, my learned friend.
There's an obvious inconsistency between your description and this photograph, which shows the victim in the birdcage following the events that led to his death.
Objection!
The court has already examined that photograph in depth. There is nothing new we can learn from it.
Objection!
Yes, we have already considered it, that's true. But we now know the facts to be different.
What do you mean? I believe we should let the defense explain.
Was there something about his glasses before? Oh no, that was... Oh, he's got metal on his glasses, and if metal isn't teleported, then he must not have been teleported, if you're saying that he teleported with his glasses on. Is it because there's like a safety pillow for his neck to make sure that it doesn't break? I guess I'm gonna say the stab wound.
Take that!
Look closely at the blood stain on the victim's chest. It clearly extends in a downwards direction towards the man's feet. I mean, it kind of does.
And why is that significant, Council?
I suppose, like, just barely. Okay, that is logically an inconsistency. That if he was really stabbed while he was lying down, then the blood should have gone in multiple directions. If the victim was stabbed moments before the kinesis machine was set in motion, that's entirely expected.
Ah, of course. No, that's not what happened.
Exactly, my lord. Dr. Sith made it very clear in her testimony just now that the point at which she stole Professor Hairbrain's screwdriver and stabbed the victim was after the grand deception was set in motion, when the birdcage had fallen below the stage, out of sight. From the shape of it, it's clear the birdcage would have fallen on its side after the 30-foot drop, and if the victim had really been stabbed whilst inside the birdcage in that position, the blood from the wound would have spread out equally in all directions. Well, not necessarily. You ever see Jurassic Park? It's chaos theory. You put a drop of water on Laura Dern's knuckle, and maybe it goes left, maybe it goes right. For it to have formed the It's not exactly longitudinal. This guy and his conceits. Conceives, and lack thereof. Given that the victim's blood seeped vertically downwards from the wound, it must be the case that when you stabbed Mr. Asman, he was standing up. In short, Dr. Sith, your latest testimony was a total fabrication. Wait, where is Wax Lady? She left. I knew it. I was right. Now I've identified that contradiction. There's only one way to explain the facts. We've all been under a great misapprehension here.
What? What sort of misapprehension?
Dr. Sith, you claim you were coerced into helping Mr. Drebber as the result of the note he left in the waxwork. You claim that you made changes to the scene of the crime to implicate the defendant, and you claim that you authored a fake autopsy report to cover your tracks. But one of those claims is an out-and-out lie. Because the question of what the bloodstain really tells us has only one possible answer.
If that is the case, what is it, man? Counsel, you've clearly struck upon a revelation. Tell the court what it is, and don't get it wrong, or else your client is guilty.
Oh, well, the stabbing, I guess, right? The answer is very simple if you consider the sequence of events. If, when the victim was stabbed, the blood from the wound seeped downward as it did, we can be sure that the victim must have been either sitting or standing upright at the time.
But as you rightly pointed out, the birdcage would have fallen on its side when it fell beneath the stage.
Yes, it would, which tells us that on the way down he shed his bonds and leapt out and did a superhero landing. So he lived, but it was really bad on his knees. That the victim must have been in that position of his own accord.
That's impossible. The man was dead, remember?
No! That is the misapprehension. When the birdcage fell from the stage into the void below, it must have hit the ground with considerable force. But Mr. Asman didn't die in the fall. He probably lost consciousness for a while. But since he doesn't have a robot eye, he doesn't know how long he was out, or what happened while he was unconscious. Just as Dr. Sith appeared. If the victim was in fact alive at that point in time, it changes everything. Mr. Odie Asman's killer wasn't the defendant, Professor Albert Hairbrain, nor was it the mastermind behind the stage trickery, Mr. Enoch Drebber. It was you, Dr. Courtney Sith. Grr. Arg! Well, I guess Drebber is a free man, then. All he did was attempted murder and explosioning, as well as blackmail, grave robbing, lots of perjury, but not murder, so he gets to go home.
Have you been taking me for a fool? It was you, was it? You killed him?
You hope that by admitting to being You hoped that by admitting to being an accomplice in Mr. Drebber's scheme, the trial would end, before you were accused of a far worse crime. Cold-blooded murder! Oh, do shut up. You're so desperate now, you're making all of this up, as if I would do something like that. I assure you, the defense is not desperate, Doctor. Mr. Naruhodo has established the facts using evidence and logic alone. Ha! Logic. Don't make me laugh. Sadly, your logic has a gaping hole in it. What? What do you mean? I'd have thought it was obvious. A motive, boy. You're lacking a motive. What possible reason would I have to kill Mr. Asman?
Asman was involved in any number of criminal activities, from coercion to theft to murder. But there is no known connection to Dr. Sith there. I'm rather relieved to say it does seem somewhat far-fetched.
True, there's no obvious motive, but there's still a conclusion that I can jump to. I feel sure I've seen something somewhere that hints at why the coroner might have done this. Yes, I might have tampered with the crime scene and concocted a fake report. But murdering someone for no reason is a very different story. Now, when you questioned what possible reason you could have for wanting to kill Mr. Asman, something did come to mind. What?
What was it, Counsel? Enlighten the court at once.
We saw it yesterday, didn't we? Oh, all the spoons that they've been eating. They order 500 spoons a month. Something that seemed strange, but we had no reason to suspect it at the time. There's a particular object that explains why Dr. Sith would have wanted to kill scalpels. Not spoons, scalpels. You can't eat a spoon. It's a scalpel, or rather, scalpels.
Did you say scalpel?
It would appear that word has struck a chord, Doctor. Come on, out with it. It was yesterday when we visited your laboratory. Look at this thick book here. Ah, it appears to be an accounting ledger. It's a record of the forensic investigation team's spending, I think. Oh? What is it? It's clear that the team purchases various equipment and supplies on a monthly basis, but one entry seems rather strange. Really? In what way? They're buying 500 scalpels every month.
Dots. 500 scalpels a month?
At first, I wondered what on earth you could be using that many scalpels for. And then I remembered that in Cockney rhyming slang, scalpel... Scalpel frenzy. Crap, there's no words that rhyme with frenzy. I have no idea. Oh, Serp took off. Okay, sorry. I stalled for too long on the scalpel Cockney rhyming slang joke that went nowhere. But actually, I realize now it's not the scalpels themselves that are significant, it's the money for them disappearing every month from the department's accounts.
Asman's criminal organization relied heavily on Cockney rhyming slang, on extortion for its funding. Tracing the money from the forensic investigation team's account to find out where it was going would be extremely straightforward.
Ugh. Ugh. Ah, scalpel's cut. Shut. Like this case. 10 years ago, when Mr. Asman was still a journalist and wrote this article about Mr. Drebber, he may well have There it is. There's the leap. Who's to say that he didn't stumble upon information that implicated the entirety of Scotland Yard in crimes which he then blackmailed them for? Information relating to Dr. Sith's darkest secret that he would use to rack money from her for the next decade.
Her darkest secret? Good Lord, you mean...
I don't know what happened on the night of the execution 10 years ago, but I can take a guess. That's allowed. But clearly, again with the clear... I need a supercut of every time he says clearly. That's something that's not at all clear. Clearly, the opportunity to rid yourself of that menace was too tempting to pass up. So, in the end, you weren't coerced at all, were you? You did it entirely of your own free will. You stabbed Mr. Asmund in the heart with all your might to silence the blackmailer who knew your dark secret forever. You'll never understand. None of you. What we've had to keep covered up all these long years? As very little of the machine remains after it was ripped apart by the bomb, the truth of this case can never be properly established unless you speak out. And if you decide not to, it's very possible that Courtney Sith will escape punishment for her crimes. Please, sir, own up to what you've done, and tell the court the truth about what happened.
10 years ago. You told the truth, and you were robbed of a bright and successful future as a result. I can certainly understand your bitterness and your consternation now. However, this is surely the chance you've been waiting for, to sever the hold that fate's had over you all these years. Super high voltage instantaneous kinesis? I mean, really. It's the addle-brained mock scientists that are the worst, you know. They don't recognize the fact that they don't have talent. They can't even get that right. And so they end up chasing impossible dreams, having unbridled faith in their abilities. They go on and on about their wonderful hypotheses, their stupid eyes shining like a little child's. They make me sick. I can't abide their foolishness. Careful, Mr. Drebber. I was particularly pleased with the kinesis machine. It made for quite a show, didn't it?
So you admit it? You admit it was nothing more than a sham made for the purpose of killing the victim?
Yes, I admit it. I did it all in the name of revenge.
Revenge for the future that Mr. Asmund's article had deprived you of 10 years earlier. But the revenge you sought didn't stop at Asmund, did it?
Which is where that very particular waxwork comes in. Yes, I see.
The condemned convict that you saw rising from the grave in Lowgate Cemetery 10 years ago, if your account of those events was all true,
then obviously Scotland Yard couldn't afford to acknowledge what had happened, even if it meant discrediting a bright young man and crushing any future career he might have had.
So your plan required that you abduct that particular waxwork model in order to exact your revenge on Scotland Yard as well, or on Dr. Sith to be precise.
It was a year ago. By some extraordinary twist of fate, Asmund turned up at my workshop. He didn't remember who I was, of course. He just wanted to employ my services as an engineer. And he happened to have a paper with him. An article on the front page caught my eye about the coroner who'd handled that bogus autopsy being appointed head of a new forensic team. When I learnt that news, My cognitive processes started to devise the plan.
What a horrid tale.
He robbed me of my future, so I wanted to use the man's own wiles against him for revenge, and have that rotten Scotland Yard eating out of my hand at the same time. I wanted them all to suffer the same humiliation I'd had to suffer.
Your actions against those who'd ruined your future were justified as revenge, at least to yourself. Certainly no one has the right to destroy another's prospects, especially for purely selfish gain. And yet, really all the dude did was ask you what happened and then put it in a newspaper article. In carrying out your plan, you did exactly that to someone else, didn't you?
Did I?
Professor Harebrain's only crime was passion for his hypothesis. But you had no compunction about sacrificing his future to effect your revenge. You knew that he would be forever branded a failure and a fraud. Perhaps life treated you unfairly 10 years ago, and others' misconduct left your life in tatters. But remember this. Your own actions resulted in exactly the same thing for another perfectly innocent young man. Do we just not do breakdowns anymore? I feel like we've gone this whole game without having a breakdown. We have a man who is half robot, and he didn't break down? And she didn't either.
Lord Van Zeeks, what of Dr. Sith? An immediate warrant for her arrest has been granted, and she's been remanded into custody, my lord. I presume she will face trial in the coming days, along with Mr. Drebber. A most regrettable situation indeed. She's made great contributions to her profession over the years. It really is a hard truth to swallow. However, that is a topic for some future occasion. For now, Professor Harebrain. Oh, yes? It seems there was a great deal more to your experiment than you realized. However, I think we can assume now that all the sordid details have been brought to light. This has been a very long and profound trial, but I'm pleased to say you are absolved of all guilt. This whole experience has taught me a very great but painful lesson. This dedicated scientist, this devotee of natural philosophy. I've been selfish and self-centered, and above all, a fool.
Professor. Don't call him that. That's a serial killer. I've spent my life thinking of nothing but my research. Misguidedly believing that I could do whatever I set my mind to, despite my lack of talent. And the worst of it is, in the process I've caused others pain and misery. Others who are far, far greater people than I.
No, Professor, that's not true.
What?
Don't tar yourself with the same brush as Drebber. What happened was his doing, and his alone. This outcome is his fate, not yours. You're not to blame in any way.
Lord Van Zeeks.
And the derision with which he referred to you earlier, calling you a fool, talentless even. The man has no idea. To believe in yourself and work your fingers to the bone to realize your dreams, that's laudable, not laughable. No one has the right to deride another for such choices.
Oh! Thank you, Barak.
So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Yes, my lord. Have you been paying any attention at all? Because I have a feeling that just moments ago you were about to declare him guilty for no reason. I presume there are no objections. None from me, my lord.
Certainly not.
This trial has really made me think, but this is the right decision. It's all been proven methodically and rigorously. I have no misgivings whatsoever.
What's that? He's done, is he? It's all over?
I don't know what's become of the yard these days. I don't recognize the place. Very well. In that case, I hereby pronounce the defendant.
Yay, woo.
Alright. Court is adjourned.
It's over. That was some trial. Professor, what a splendid outcome, isn't it? Yeah, I'll still go till the chapter ends. I mean, I can't imagine that something else is going to happen, he said, like a fool. Oh, it is. Congratulations, Professor Hairbrain.
Mr. Naruhodo, Miss Susato, I'm truly beside myself with gratitude. How can I ever thank you enough?
Minimal game overs. It were definitely... Well, I'll talk about it next time. I'm just glad it's all been cleared up, that you realize you were just caught up in a bad situation.
Right now, if I had that research grant money, I'd give the whole lot to you. Every pence, every serpent.
Well, it's very kind, but I'm just a student, so... We don't need any financial reward. Your acquittal is more than enough, said no lawyer ever.
Oh dear, what can I do? Aha! How about this as a memento? The paper my hypothesis is inside.
Well, just as a memento, then. Thank you. I've been wondering, Professor. What are you going to do now? Wait. The paper about my hypothesis inside, it was like this big, wasn't it? It was like business card sized. What are you going to do now?
Oh my, yes, what am I going to do? My hypothesis and my great machine lie in ruins. But still, it's been too long since I was last in London, so perhaps I'll enjoy some sightseeing. I must explore the great exhibition while I'm here too, and see if new inspiration hits me.
Oh yes, that's a wonderful idea. I can't allow that, said somebody. Oh. Lord Van Zeeks, what are you doing here? You're not allowed in the courthouse. Not after last time.
Barak! I'm sorry you had to go through that, Albert. Well, if I'm honest, it was terrifying. You were like a great demon behind your bench there, snarling down on your prey. You're one of those few true friends I have. I couldn't leave it to anybody else to handle the prosecution or the defense.
Sorry? Or the defense? Did I just hear that right?
I always knew you had my best interest at heart, don't worry. How about you show me around while I'm here in town? It's been a long time since we left university. We have a lot to catch up on. Listen, Albert, in a few days your acquittal will be made official. When that happens, you must head straight to Dover. I'll accompany you. What? From there, you'll cross the channel and make your way back to Germany. I've already purchased the tickets.
But no, hold on a minute, Barak. That's a great exhibition. This is a chance of a lifetime for me. I think he did, yeah. He seemed to be saying, like, this was all part of my master plan for you to... for me to lose the trial.
No sightseeing, Albert. Give up on the idea.
Ugh. Sometimes it's hard to see any warmth in those eyes, Barak. Lord Van Zeeks. What's all this about?
A necessary precaution.
Yes, I think I understand. You do? Well, Iris told me that when you met Lord Van Zeeks at his office some days ago, he asked how Mr. Natsume was doing. Yes, that's right. I remember being surprised at the time and thinking it was nice of him to ask. The point is, Mr. Natsume is still alive and well, even though it's been more than 6 months now since he stood trial with the Reaper as the prosecutor. Ah, you mean the Reaper's influence doesn't stretch overseas?
Those in the Reaper's sights meet their ends days or sometimes months after their acquittal. That's been the pattern up until now. Up to now.
But of course, we know that both Mr. Natsume and Gina were completely innocent.
True. And perhaps that governs the Reaper's actions. The truly innocent are spared. But I don't want to take any chances with a close personal friend.
Barak!
Like the mustached Nipponese, this man should leave the country without delay. That is why I am packing him off to Germany at once.
Why would his acquittal not be made official for a few days? And if that's the case, wouldn't he still be in jail? Wouldn't they say, like, yeah, for some reason, even though you were found not guilty, you're not officially not guilty yet, so, like, don't go anywhere, you have to stay in jail. Does your friend-shaped package get any say in it? Goodness, was this your intention all along? No, this was not his intention. Such devastation. In court, where people think of him as the Reaper, this man seems absolutely merciless, and yet, sometimes I feel as though I don't understand him at all.
It's time to go, Albert. Back
To the... I was... Right? Wait. How does any of this work? It's like, yeah, you're still in jail until we finish filling out the forms, which, I mean, we're not gonna rush or anything. It's almost 3 o'clock on a Thursday. I can't be tying myself up. I'll get it done on Monday. Ah, yes, all right. Well done, Mr. Naruhodo. Thank you so much for everything. Definitely could be the case. Not at all, Professor. It was a pleasure getting to know you before you died. Best wishes, Professor Hairbrain. Well, once the dust is settled, you must come and visit me in Germany. Anyway, goodbye for now. Auf Wiedersehen.
now, my Nipponese friend.
Oh, yes? I thought you'd gone too.
We have matters to discuss. Can you spare me some time?
You want to talk with me?
I'll be waiting in the courtroom in 10 minutes.
Oh, that was strange. For some reason, I didn't get that sense of impending doom as he walked away this time. The Enigma, Barak von Zeeks. What does he want to discuss, I wonder? The answer awaits in the courtroom, I suppose. Here goes, then. I guess we'll end it. It's 10 now. So they're gonna have a big long end of chapter discussion, I suppose. All right, so we will see that discussion next time. Tomorrow morning, so 8 hours from now, I'll be streaming some Final Fantasy XIV. I won't be streaming tomorrow evening, so we'll come back to this on Thursday is the plan. So I will either see you in some several hours or on Thursday. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you for your impact. And this is the Frump stream. And I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. All right. We are not quite at the start of Case 5. We have finished Case 4, and it looks like Count Dracula wants to have a chat with us. So the conclusion of the trial was that we brought Dr. Sith up on the stand and got her to admit that, oh yes, I did. She folded rather quickly and said, "Yep, I did cooperate with him. He left the wax model there, and there was a letter in its pocket to me that said, I'll expose your secrets if you don't cover up this murder." So she did. She went to the place where Odie Asman was supposedly dead, and then she took a screwdriver and stabbed him in the heart, and then brought the, in order to create fake evidence, and then brought the body up into the Crystal Tower, and I don't know, put the wax thing back so that he could return it. She didn't know who had done it, just that she didn't want the secret to get out, that she was involved in. Did we find out exactly what? She falsified the autopsy, I guess. Because it was part of the whole police department secret that what's-his-name was not executed, or at least was not executed at midnight on the day that they said. But then it turned out that when she got there, he was still alive, and she stabbed and killed him. And I don't even remember what her... Man, it's only been 5 days, 3 days. It's only been 3 days, and I've kind of forgotten. Did she... Was that the deal? She knew him? I don't know. We'll find out. We'll find out.
So, are you satisfied? You saved a guileless scientist from a great injustice.
Yes, I think so. I'm relieved at least that the man's innocence could be proven.
Anyway, I imagine you've been wondering where my animosity toward you Nipponese comes from.
Is it because we slap ourselves in the face? I'll be honest, there's a good reason to hate a whole race. Well, at first I thought you just didn't like me. I imagined you saw me as a pretentious child from an unimportant land who had no business being here. But now, I think differently. You clearly know our ways. You studied the blade. So I would guess that some specific incident led to your thorough dislike of my race. Will you tell me what happened, please?
The professor. I thought I'd never hear that name in this courtroom again, to be honest.
He took your brother's life.
Clint. My brother was Clint Van Zieks. 16 years ago. When I was still just in my teens. He was already the director of prosecutions and a key member of the judiciary.
Man, this guy was a teenager and already wasn't the director of prosecutions? Late bloomer, I guess. He's like my older brother, and it's like, you couldn't surpass him? You were a teenager. Come on, chop chop. It's the Phoenix Wright universe.
I looked up to him. He was everything I aspired to be. He was involved in the establishment of justice systems in foreign countries as well. There were exchange
The funny European spelling programs.
There were exchange programs between Britain and other nations then too, to share knowledge and ideas. As part of one of those programs, 3 judicial students came to Britain from your homeland, the Empire of Japan.
So one of them is her dad, one of them is the judge, Jigoku. Who's the third one? The professor, I guess? If it was 16 years ago, then one of them could have been my father.
Of course, I remember Dr. Mikotoba very well.
I had no idea.
I was a minor at the time, training at the prosecutor's office. One day, Clint introduced me to the three visiting Nipponese.
So you've actually met my father.
He and his colleagues were polite and amicable. They were adept at their work and exacting in their standards. It was my first encounter with the Nipponese spirit, Bushido, maybe, and it made a very great impression upon me. But 6 years later, that's when it happened. The investigation was going nowhere. There were no suspects even. Just an ever-growing list of victims. And in the end, my brother became one of them. The last, in fact, before the case was finally resolved.
I'm so sorry, Lord Van Zieks. Truly.
Clint was always ready to put his life on the line for justice anyway. So he wouldn't have wanted it any other way. He lost his life to the killer, but it was his victory in the end. For me, personally, though, it was a great loss. I found myself in a very dark place indeed. Then I finally found out the killer's identity. The reason why no one had been able to catch the man sooner ceased to be such a mystery. He'd been hiding in plain sight all the time.
In plain sight?
Are you aware of political events 10 years ago? It was a period of extremely sensitive diplomacy between the British and Japanese empires.
A new treaty was being forged, I think.
Correct. The Anglo-Japanese Treaty of Friendship and Navigation was being concluded. The leaders of both countries were deep in extensive political discussions. Which is why this particular killer's appearance in court was conducted as a closed trial. If the British public had known the identity of the killer, not only would the treaty have been in jeopardy, but our two nations could very well have ended up at war.
What? A war? Between Britain and Japan? This is nonsense. But that would mean... Oh my! You mean to say the professor was...
When the trial reached its conclusion earlier, I thought to myself, yes, it's time.
It's not your real voice.
Time for you to come face to face with this hideous monster. I borrowed the key for the mask from the proprietress of the Waxwork Museum. So see for yourselves now. Confirm it with your own eyes. The truth that's been hidden this past decade.
His voice sounds familiar.
That's the professor?
Yes, that's him.
Until now, the thought never even crossed my mind. That the mass murderer, whose crimes shook Britain as never before, was Japanese.
Wait a minute. That face. I feel as though I've seen it somewhere. It's strangely familiar.
Okay. A simple objection would be sufficient. You are in court after all.
Father.
What? Father? Kazuma! My best friend, Kazuma Asogi. After a whole year, finally his memories returned.
So, as is customary for all Phoenix Wright games, and I do mean all, the final case is going to absolve someone who has been accused of a crime in the past, and we are going to exonerate them in a way that proves our client innocent. So we're going to prove that his father was not actually the killer.
Ryunosuke. Hello again. My friend.
Kazuma-sama!
Judicial Assistant Mikotaba.
Don't call her that.
It's been a very long road. Thank you. Thank you for guiding my friend here when I could not.
It was an honor.
I knew you wouldn't die that easily. Kazuma.
And now I'm no longer the main character. He takes over.
For taking good care of that in my absence. Oh. Karuma, the great blade of the Asogi clan, passed down through the generations. When we left Japan, this sword was at my friend's side. The Japanese man's katana is his soul. He couldn't be parted from it. But then,
It's
when the incident happened,
traps the soul of its victims, I see. This is katana.
it was Susato-san's wish that I inherit the sword. And I've kept it with me ever since, along with my memories of the friendship we shared.
Kinda wasn't up to her, but okay.
With this by my side, I always felt that you were watching over me somehow.
Hey, Serp. It's been an eventful 10 minutes. We're meeting with, what's his name? Lord Van Zeeks. Was like, here, come into the courtroom. I have to tell you something.
At last.
He's like,
Father.
the reason that I hate Japanese people so much is because my brother was killed by the professor, and this is his real face. And he took the key and unlocked the thing. And we're like, oh, it's the Japanese guy. And he's like, there's 3 people came over from Japan 10 years ago. Or 16, 10, one of those. He can't count very well, so I don't trust his numbers. But he was like, oh, some number of years ago, Susato's father and the judge, I guess, and some third guy came over here to blah, blah, blah. And they were like, oh, and this was the guy, like the third guy, and he killed my brother and killed everybody else. And then Kazuma was here with his mask on. Oh, wait. Oh, you know this game. Well, don't I feel silly?
Are you saying... Surely not. You mean...
Surely.
You knew all this time. I'm looking at it. But... I still can't believe it. This mass murderer is Kazuma's father.
Kazuma-sama.
Wouldn't the arm also fall off? There's not enough shoulder holding it in place anymore.
We have much to talk about, but now is not the time. I'll be seeing you.
Johnny.
That's all Kazuma said. Before he turned and left us there, in the courtroom.
Oh, I'm dumb. Thank you. Updated the title, and I did forget to change the game. Boo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Alright, that should update in a minute. Thank you. So, he is the living after image of the man who took my brother's life, is he? Yes. Kazuma Asogi, my best friend.
3 months ago, when Lord Strongheart introduced us, I had an inkling there was something there, some connection.
But why did Lord Strongheart do that? Why did he make Kazuma Lord Van Zeek's apprentice, and when he was suffering amnesia, too? Yeah, oh my god, I did run it a second time today, and it's so much more obvious, the meteor thing, where, I don't think it's the attack you're talking about, but the one where it's like, oh, there's a meteor falling, and if he picks that portal, like, I didn't even realize, like, it's one of the portals, they're portals, they glow, and he punches into one, and his fist comes out of the other one, so it's like, oh, the reason you're not supposed to stand where I was standing, the, 8 times that I died to it, is because the meteor is falling, but if he punches through that portal, then it doesn't land. So the place where it says it's going to land is the safe spot, and everywhere else is bad. But yeah, the one where you have to get knocked into the fingers. I also feel really dumb about the whole entire party dying to Bayergot's first, the thing where it's like, oh, we'll all stand here. And as I went over to it, I'm like, this is the wrong spot. Oh, really? Yeah, my white mage is not that geared out.
The man was apprehended, even executed. But his legacy just won't die. That's the sad truth. Anyway, that's all I had to say. I thank you for meeting with me as I asked.
Yep. I finished MSQ. I did not go and do the final role quest yet. I do want to do that. I haven't made that a priority. I've been playing a lot of the PvP. 10 years ago, my grandmother took me to the railway station. We were there to meet my father from the train. For me, it was the first time I'd ever seen him. Poor Susato-san. All this is tied up with painful memories for her, too. Oh, yeah. Well, and then when I played through it off, I was like, is that supposed to be Garland from FF1? Because I never played... no, I did play 4, but it was, like, back when it came out. So I wouldn't have recognized it, but then later on I saw people saying, oh, it's obviously Golbez and the 4 whatevers. She's never talked about this with me before, though. It took time to adjust to having father around, but just when I was starting to get used to it, he called me into his study one day. He told me that a great friend of his had passed away in London, and that the friend had left behind a son, a boy, 7 years my senior. Father told me the boy had made a promise to his late father, so he was studying to become a defense lawyer. Yeah. I wanted to help, so I studied to become a qualified judicial assistant. As I'm sure you've worked out, that young man's name was Albert Einstein. So you see, that's how he and I met.
For a brief moment, my great friend had returned, only to disappear again all too soon. But in that fleeting encounter,
Right.
something stirred.
Stranger
Something
Paradise.
that had been dormant for a long time. As if great wheels had been set in motion. I could almost hear them creaking into life. In some ways, it was the end of a chapter, but in many, it was the start of a new one.
In many, it was the start of the final Phoenix Wright chapter, in which we once again defend someone by overturning a crime from many years ago and exonerating the person who was wrongly accused of it. Literally every single Phoenix Wright game. Without exception. Ah, that might not be true.